Hello, welcome back to my channel. Please subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and please check out my channel for other zeeworld updates. So the last update about Twist of Fate. Prachi vowed to be extra wicked and challenge Rhea and Pallavi, and Grandma is happy that Prachi is now a tigress. Then Pallavi organized a party for Rhea and Ramru's wedding reception. But Aliyah and Rhea are planning to use that party against Prachi. Let's continue. Pallavi was briefing everyone about the game and says we will blindfold all the husbands and they shall identify their wives, and says if he identifies his wife wrong, then he would have to do with the lady whatever is written in the sheet. Rhea recalls Aliyah making a plan to make Rhea wear a scent before the game begins so that Rambro can identify Rhea with the mogra smell, and then making Rambro kiss her while picking the red sheet. Rhea tells Rambro that he would identify her smelling the gajra smell. Aliyah says we shall start the game with Vikram. Vikram identifies Pallavi. Pallavi gets happy. The guy asks Vikram to give him a tip to identify his wife. Vikram says I could identify right being scared. Aliyah picks a yellow sheet and asks Vikram to say a poetry praising Pallavi. Vikram tells the poetry. Everyone claps. Aliyah asks Rahul to come next. Pallavi blindfolds him. A lady asks Prachi to stand with all the ladies. Shahana takes Prachi to stand in the ladies' line. Rahul couldn't identify Renu. Rhea says it is okay, he is holding your hand all life. Aliyah takes out a sheet and asks Rahul to leave the girl and take a round of the house, swearing that he will not do this mistake again. He apologized to Renu. Pallavi says now it is Rambro's turn. I will blindfold him. She blindfolds Rambro. Prachi recalls Rhea asking Rambro to identify her with Gajra smell. Shahana asks Prachi why is she angry. Prachi says Rhea has done cheating and says she has worn it intentionally so that Rambro could identify her and she can boast about their love etc. Rambro comes to Shahana, then to Prachi. Rambro goes past Prachi and goes to the other ladies. He comes to Rhea and touches her gajra in her ear. He is about to hold her hand, but then goes back and comes to Prachi and Shahana, and he then comes to Prachi and touches her face. Rhea gets angry. Pallavi and Aliyah were shocked. Rambro owes Prachi and says this is my wife. Everyone claps for him. Grandma is happy. Rambro takes out his blindfold and sees Prachi. Prachi looks at him. Shahana smiles. Grandma is also happy. The lady says now he will be punished. Shahana says as per the game rules. Rambro says I am ready and needs to be punished when I have done a mistake. Grandma says I will pick the sheet. Aliyah says I will take out the sheet and asks her to pick the other sheet. Grandma asks Vikram to let her pick the sheet and asks Aliyah to pick it later. She picks the red sheet, shocking Rhea, but the sheet falls down inside. Vikram asks her to pick something else. Grandma says okay and picks the yellow sheet. He says the guy and the girl shall dance with each other. Shahana says someone play the music. Rambro bends down on his knees and forwards his hand. Prachi holds his hand. They have a dance while a song plays in the background. Aliyah and Rhea goes away from there. Shahana gets suspicious and thinks that they are up to something. Aliyah goes behind Rhea. Rhea takes out the papers. Aliyah asks, why didn't you come? Rhea says, what should I do? She says he did this intentionally and left me alone again. She throws her gajra away. Shahana sees the gajra thrown away by Rhea. Rhea says Rambro wanted to hold Prachi's hand so that he can call her his wife. She says it was easy to separate them, but it is practically impossible to keep him away from her as he loves her. She says they have to separate them legally now before he announces our marriage as illegal. The ladies appreciate their dance and says I haven't seen such a dance before. She tells Pallavi that if she had met Prachi before Rhea, then she would have gotten Rambro married to Prachi, and says it seems that they are made for each other. Prachi goes away from there. The lady says Prachi might have felt bad. Grandma says why would she feel bad? Rhea would have felt bad instead. Rambro and Prachi feel for each other. He comes to her and asks, why didn't you give me your phone number? I tried calling you. A song plays in the background. Rhea and Aliyah comes out of the room seeing Shahana outside. Shahana says I have lost the way while going to the washroom. She goes and thinks that Rhea is planning something against Prachi. I will ruin her plan and I will show her that I am Prachi's sister. Rambro asks, why do you go without talking to me? Prachi says there shall be no answer for all the questions and asks why is he acting innocent. Rambro asks, what do you mean? Prachi says you could have contacted me and you knew that I am at my mother's house. She says I cannot see your face clearly and asks him not to act in front of her. She says, I know you well now. Rambro asks, what did you know? Prachi says, when the right time comes. Rambro asks when and says, if anyone talks to you, then forget about trusting self. Prachi asks Rambro to ask his mommy why she is not telling anyone that she is his wife. Rambro asks if she feels bad when people call her Rhea's husband. Prachi says it doesn't matter to her now. Rambro says it is difficult to know what is in your heart. Prachi goes away from there. Rambro comes back to the party. Rhea asks Aliyah to get ready with everything and she goes to talk to Rambro. Prachi feels bad and sits somewhere. Pallavi comes there and records the happenings. She gets Aliyah's call and tells her that she is going to her room and she doesn't want to spoil Rahul and Renu's anniversary. Aliyah comes there. Prachi comes to them. Aliyah says you have become mannerless and asks why she doesn't want her sister's happiness. She asks what did she want, right or revenge? Prachi says I am here as I don't want anyone to live peacefully here. Aliyah asks what is this foolishness? Prachi says if I had shown my foolishness, then I would have made Rhea land in jail. Prachi tells Pallavi that Aliyah wanted her to send Rhea to jail. Aliyah shouted. Prachi says I am going on the right track and says I will get Rhea handcuffed if I see her doing anything wrong. She says Aunt wanted Rambro to be with me, but Rhea will not feel good and asks what to do. Pallavi asks Prachi to stop her drama. Prachi asks her to say what she shall do, what she wants or what her aunt wants. Pallavi says what I want. She says you have become mannerless and says I am your mother-in-law and asks her not to forget their relationship. Prachi says I haven't forgotten it, but you have forgotten it. She says I did not do anything wrong. Aliyah says you have done drama and danced with Rambro. Prachi asks did I keep that game and rules? I did not do that. She tells Pallavi that do they want to announce Rhea and Rambro's marriage in someone else's anniversary. Prachi says you plan to cheat and made Rhea want Ganjra so that Rambro could identify her and then our illegitimate relationship is announced. She says when you called me as your daughter-in-law, then why do you want Rambro to kiss Rhea? She says when I don't have any right, then how will I fulfill my responsibility? Prachi says I am your daughter-in-law, Rambro is your son, and it is a sin to make him kiss Rhea in front of everyone. She says I have saved you from doing a sin and says she cannot expect this from her aunt. Aliyah shouted. Prachi says when mother-in-law and daughter-in-law are talking, you shall not interfere and says if you interrupt me, then I will tell you who is an outsider. Pallavi asks Prachi to be in her limit. Prachi says if you do cheap things in my aunt's influence, then it is wrong. Pallavi says you shall learn manners and behavior. Prachi says she has learnt manners and thought of elders and says I did not let you get arrested when I talk about Rhea's arrest. Prachi says I could prove you wrong too, but I did not and this is called manners. She says I know what I shall do and what I shall not do and says this is called limitations. She says the values are in my blood and with whom I don't have blood relationship, I see them with the same sight too. Aliyah says I want to see how she will look when she talks about manners, values, etc. Pallavi says she will not go. Aliyah says Rhea will throw her out and says that she will take Prachi's signature on the divorce papers. Pallavi asks if Prachi will not read the papers. Rhea says Prachi's drink will be spiked and then Prachi cannot understand anything. Pallavi says this is wrong. How can you let Rhea do this? Rhea comes to Rambro and says you knew that I have won Ganjra for you. She asks him to answer her. Rambro says I know that you came to fight with me. Rhea asks what is going on between you and Prachi. Rhea says I wanted you to identify me and then why did you call Prachi as your wife? Rambro says I am not a cheater and says I don't like betraying anyone and says if you try to betray anyone, then I will never support you. He wants her. Rhea says you are lecturing me on cheating and says you told me that Prachi is your wife. Why? Rambro says Prachi is my wife. Pallavi says you should have stopped Rhea. Aliyah asks if Prachi's word influenced you. Pallavi says half of the words of Prachi was true. If she wanted, then she could have get any of us arrested. Pallavi praises Prachi and says that she is supporting the truth. She says I am afraid. Aliyah says Prachi cannot get anyone arrested as there will be no relationship with us. Pallavi says this is wrong. Aliyah says see that your relationship would end with Prachi. Pallavi says we can do it straight away. Aliyah tells Pallavi that don't think it as her goodness, but her magic. She says she told us so much in front of the guest, if not in front of the police. She says Prachi doesn't care about her sister, Rambro and you, and asks her to let her do what she is doing. Aliyah provokes Pallavi against Prachi. Pallavi recalls taking promise from Rambro. Aliyah thanks her. Rhea asks, then who am I to you? Rambro says you are a mistake if you want to hear. Rhea is shocked and she opens her mouth. Thank you for watching. Please don't forget to like my video, share it, and please subscribe to my channel for more updates. Thank you.